a couple weeks ago that when Dafka we were speaking about Haredi education, I said, wow, Yella, I always knew the voice of God was a woman's voice. So I'm not sure that went over well with everybody, but I've always thought that. Now we're switching gears and we're going to speak about schools that haven't even opened their doors yet. But it's really, really exciting. Mumik Navolo is the principal, incoming principal for the School for Sustainability and Social Responsibility, a high school. And Shachar Yanai is also the incoming principal, founding principal for the International Baccalaureate, the IB school, also a high school. So very, very exciting. The School for Sustainability and Social Responsibility is opening, don't get nervous, right around the corner in this year. And the IB school in 2022, just a year after that. So let's have just a little bit of a explanation. First, start with the personal. Mumik, a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are now, and tease out a sentence or two about the exciting school that you'll open, and then I'll ask the same of Shachar. So go ahead, Mumik.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Nice to meet you. I think that I met most of you. My name is Mumik. I'm a father of 3, Bar, Paz, and Einav. Happily married to Gali, living with her in the last 20 years. I think that most of my life, I've been working in education. What you're calling in Hebrew, mostly the informal education. Israeli Scouts and Masai Israeli and so on. I've been a director of a community center in Jerusalem for a few years, and after a few years, I understood that one of the things that I think that an educator needs is money. And I understood that that politics is it's one of the main goals if you want to achieve anything. So I've been advisor to the mayor of Jerusalem, Mr. Nir Barkat, for 3 years, something like a decade ago. And in one of the nights, my wife, I came home really late, like around midnight, and my wife told me, "I see that you had a lesson, right?" And in those days, I've been a teacher in pre-army programs, mechinot, and I said yes. How did you know? And she said, "You're all mu'al in Hebrew, lighting, inspired." And then I understood that I should go back to education. That politics is great, but maybe not for me, or maybe not then. And I went back to education, to the formal education, and I have the huge privilege to teach at Boyer High School. I've been a mechanech, educator, and then we left to New York City, to Manhattan. My wife done her postdoc there, and I've been a teacher in Heschel School, which I believe that you know pretty well. I need to say that after this year in Heschel, I have the feeling that I need to be in a public school and not in a private school. I think that it's more me. I don't know. It's great education, but it's something that I have the feeling that I need more diversity with my students, bigger diversity. And in the last 5 years, I've been the director of Garin Sabar. Garin Sabar, it's a program for lone soldiers who would like to move to Israel and serve in the army. I've been the director in North America. And then I came back here, I think 7 or 8 months ago, I got a call from Michal. And from my point of view, we talked about how do I make my dream come true. And I'm so happy that I'm on the way. And we are building this school. The school, we have 2 legs in the school. The first one is the sustainability, which means that how do we think about the future and how do we act in the present without not without, but with making as small change and as a small, I forgot the word, but to try and to make no harm to our future in the same time. And the other leg and the other point of view is our will to be part of something that is bigger than us, is to be responsible not just about ourselves, but to our community, to our friends, to our teachers, and to take care on one each other. I heard the conversation about the Baccalaurate. So we really hope that each and every student won't do just Bagrut in our school. He will do something. We don't know what it's going to be. It depends on his or her dream, but he's going to do something. Maybe he's going to build, I don't know, a bicycle lane, or maybe he's going to change some kind of law in the Knesset, but he's going to do something. And maybe he's going to fail. Maybe she's going to really want to do something and she's going to fail. But we hope that she's going to finish her 12 years in the education system in Israel, not just with a diploma, but with something that she tried to change in Israel, or to make it better in Israel. This is our dream. I hope that we're gonna fulfill it.
Thank you. Thank you. And Shachar, a bit also about your own background and a little bit about the school whose doors you're going to be opening soon.
Hi, good evening. So a bit similar to what Momik said, I've been doing education in all kinds of forms for many years. My last position was, I was in charge of the study abroad programs at the Hebrew University. Before that, I dealt with development and internationalization in higher education in a private college in Ramat Gan. So that was kind of the academic world. Before the academic world, I worked in Givat Chaviva. I was in charge of high school encounters between Israeli Jews and Arab Palestinian citizens of Israel. Hard to decide how to phrase that exactly. I took that job after 3 years in the States, where I coordinated resources for college students in the US that were doing activities related to Israel, strengthening the affinity to Israel. So that was my job before. And before that, I was a boarding school director. So I've been around in different jobs in different contexts, but I've always wanted to be a school principal, actually. When I was in 11th grade, that was sort of my calling. Somehow on the way, things went to all kinds of directions. The way I got to this school was that during my job at the university, I was also teaching in different frameworks, and one of them was the IB school at Givat Chaviva. I taught there for 2 years, and I was really excited about the whole IB system and pedagogy, and I felt that it's really something that I could relate to. I was teaching in English, and I think when SAE was looking for someone to fill the job, I think they thought that, you know, my overall background was appropriate for that position. We've been going at it for almost a year, Eden and myself, establishing the school. Today was a very sort of a festive day, because it was our first consultation visit from the IB, our first sort of a benchmark from them to see how we're doing in our progress towards authorization. We brought all of our stuff. We already have 14 people on board, and they're all going to start working only in September 2022. So it's very, very exciting. And we look with great excitement forward to opening the school.
You can see from his smile.
Yeah, let me ask both of you. The idea is fantastic. And in Truth in Advertising, by the way, I've mentioned to Momik that our daughter benefited greatly by being part of Going Sabar, and She became an officer and now is thinking about law school in Jerusalem. So thank you very much for whatever you did. It's really our pleasure to see this. The ideas are fantastic for these schools, but timing is so important in organizational life. So lav dafka now, why is now the moment that these are almost opening their doors? Either Shachar.
Me?
Would you like to start?
I think for us, I mean, internationalization in education in general is a trend, but it's not a trend just because it's trendy. It's a trend because that's the way the world is. The world becomes interdependent. The world becomes much more mobilized. People can move and can think about where they want to gain the best education. And since language is becoming sort of a common, English is becoming the common language through which to do that, a common platform, it's accessible. So many people, baccalaureate in Israel, like Israelis would never dream of that like 5 years ago. And I think that 10 years from now, it will be sort of another option that's available for everyone. And we are, in a way, taking the first step in making it available for everyone. We're going to be the first public school that takes on the IB as a track in the school, which is unbelievable. And from our standpoint, IB for all is the approach. So I think it's the trend of internationalization, the way the world is becoming, and what kind of educational skills are needed for that. That's the need. There's no question about it. Looking at ways to bring Jewish communities or Jews from different communities together through educational platforms, that's the second. And the third is Israel. Israel as, that kind of laboratory and experience that, can change a person's life and a person's perspective.
And Momik, so why now, and why perhaps this school wasn't going to be open 5 years ago or 5 years from now?
It's a tricky question because I think that when you look at the last administrative in the US, so you see that people are asking questions about what is true and what is false. And I think that when we're talking, I'm 40 years old, and my partners are as well. But when I'm talking with my kids, with the young generation, with those who are in their teens, they are struggling. And when they feel the heat that we felt this week, they don't have really questions. They know who is responsible on it, and they are putting their finger on us. And I think that our job now is to take our responsibility back and to ask the question with them, ask what is true and what is false, what kind of questions we can answer. And and I need to say that I'm trying to live my life in a way that I'm not just talking the talk, I'm walking the walk. And I'm driving with electric car, and it's really not easy in Israel because it's really difficult to recharge it again and again. But I think I feel a lot better when I'm driving from Jerusalem to Kfar Saba day to day. Today I'm in Shlomi, and I'm very proud that I came from Jerusalem to Shlomi almost with non-battery, with my electric car. I think that this is the future. I think that when we're teaching our kids, when we are learning with them about what is our responsibility, not just about being a sustained community, just what is our responsibility. I think that when we are asking the questions and when we are having this negotiation about what we should do today that won't harm the future, I think that there is no other time to do it. I'm not sure that we could have done it 5 years ago. I'm not sure, even now, it's the first school in Israel that is going to be, help me with it, מאוזן energetic. Help me. How do you call it? energetic,
Balance?
balanced. Yes, thank you. So it's going to be the first high school in Israel that's going to be balanced from his first day because of our solar energy. So we are in the beginning of a trend. It's really the beginning, but I do believe that in 5 or 10 years there are going to be a lot of meetings like those that ask why we didn't do it 5 years ago.
Okay, so I'm completely biased. I think these schools, are a no-brainer. I'll go out on a limb and presume that most of us think so also. With that, what's going to be the roadblock? What's going to be the challenge that you're going to meet, even though you think, yalla, no, guys, of course we should open this school. But what are you going to hear that's going to be a challenge, or from parents, or from teachers, or from students, or from others?
We felt it already. We've done two long meetings of weekends of 33, 35 hours long with sleeping and everything. And we would like to be diverse. We like the diversity. And I think that everybody really like to talk about diversity, but not to live it, and to bring together from one group, the people who are living in the periphery of Israel, from Nahariya, from Shlomi, from Netivot, and in the same group, people from Saba, and the diversity is not easy. It's not an easy goal, and it's not easy day-to-day life. It's something that it's really difficult to sleep together, to talk together, to learn together. So I think this is our first obstacle. We like it, we love it, but it's difficult. And I want to be, to say the truth. I think that the second one is that we are in the beginning of a trend. We're not in the trend. And today, most of the people that hear me, they're saying, "Oh, you are a lefty. You like to hug trees." Yeah, and I'm not. I'm not so lefty. I don't like to hug trees, but I do care about my future. And I think that it's really difficult to be those first one who are doing it. We have a few dozens of students that are going to join us, but it's not easy. We are getting them one by one. We're talking with them. They would like to join to the school, but we need to see that they can stand with. It's not easy to learn by yourself, or to be this kind of learner. So I think that those are our two most difficult obstacles that we have.
What do you anticipate facing for the IB school?
So I think like I can think of two major challenges, just very central. One is the recruitment, which is / budgeting. Recruitment is going to be difficult. The concept of a boarding school away from home as Jewish education for North Americans is not very common, and it's going to take a lot of, I think, path excavation to get this thing rolling and get people to understand that it's really a good choice for their kids. So I think, and if we don't recruit, we will have a budgeting deficit, because this school is very expensive. If you take the ratio of students per teacher, it's just like much higher than in regular Israeli schools, and it takes a lot of resources. That's one challenge. The second, I would say, is more internal. It's the integration. How do you integrate an international school into Boyer, into the high school, the existing high school, the boarding school and everything? How do you integrate it? It's so different. It's a different program. It's a different language. It's people from different cultures with different expectations. How do you integrate them? And the second integration challenge, which I think is just as much an opportunity, I would say that all of these are just as much an opportunity, is how do you integrate the IB education into SAE, the other schools? Like, how do Momik and myself collaborate, teaching together environment and society, right? How do we do it? So I think, but I think that if we live up to this challenge of integration, I think the benefit for the whole organization is going to be amazing. I think that's why Michal and others in the leadership took it on, because I think they see the opportunity. But it's a challenge. It's not something that's natural. It's going to take a lot of effort.
So this may seem like an odd question from my perspective as a Jewish educator, as a Zionist, as somebody whose daughter is living in Israel. Why in Israel? Singapore math developed in Singapore. The Finns are known for extraordinary education. There are pockets in this country that do some things in the classroom nobody else has done. So explain why you're there, right? So the Aguda is there, but aside from that, why are these schools going to be taking off dafka in Israel? What about being in Israel is going to help them succeed? Moment.
Oh, again, a tricky question. I think it's for me, I came from America 5 months ago, and for me, I'm living it. I think that the difference in the community, the difference in being individual in Manhattan, which I think it's one of the most areas or cities that you are very individual and it's all about you. And I think that when we are here, we're feeling that the community is the center, and the community is the. I think it's one of the most important things for a man or for a woman or people who are living together. So I think that the answer is Israel, and the answer is the community in Israel. I think this is it from my point of view.
Shachar, obviously, the school from a world Jewish perspective is going to be different than other schools in other parts of the world. But what do you think in Israel will play to the strengths of the IB school?
It was really interesting today that the IB consultant, she's Italian, she's never been to Israel. And she asked us about this course. The IB has a very key course. It's a core component. It's called Theory of Knowledge. It's sort of a course on integration, epistemic questions, critical thinking, research methods. It's sort of an integrative course, very important. And she said, do you think parents there'll be like pushback because the course is sort of fluffy, it's about philosophical, it's critical thinking, it's all that. And I said, listen, in the Israeli culture, that's what we expect. I think it'll be, strong selling point. And she was, I get it, right? Beit Midrash and all that, you guys are always doing the, thinking, criticizing. I get it. It was really interesting to see how suddenly, this sort of global approach takes a local concept. They're opening 2 arts classes, film and visual. Who wants to study art? Are you guys crazy? It's such a downer. No one's gonna want to come. And we said, listen, we believe that creativity and innovation start there. And if you're not, if you don't want to study art, if you don't want to be sort of in that place, you're going to have a hard time. And many people think that to be someone innovative in that, you have to learn business management.
Right.
So I think Israel has that understanding, and it's part of the Jewish culture, but it's also very Israeli. That understanding that this archavat ufakim, right? The expansion of horizons, the ability to function in different contexts, to be sort of a rich person spiritually is the basis to be a good person and a successful person.
Well, as long as I gave my daughter a couple, points, I have to do the same with our son, who's working off Broadway as a playwright and actor and singer, I don't think there's no more collaborative environment than stage work and theater. So I would love to see all schools, focused on the arts, but all the more so specifically on theater. Yeah, so we're, this is just the beginning of a conversation. I suppose answering my own question about what specifically in Israel can make these schools succeed. Startup Nation was written, I don't know, feels like 50 years ago, and it's almost a cliche, but there's really no more entrepreneurial country, I don't think, in terms of how, it's comfortable to reinvent every generation. It's comfortable to be, quote unquote, a chalutz, a pioneer, not just in terms of, borders like in the old days, but in terms of real thinking. So I would think that Israel lends so much to these schools and these experiments with the possibility of, quote unquote, failing is the wrong word. The possibility of hitting your head against the wall and saying, all right, so I'll go around it this way, that way, I'll tunnel under it.
It's going to take 4 years to
over it.
succeed. This is all.
Yeah.
It's going to take 4 years. It's not
Yes,
failing.
they say in Latin, klap kopenvan, if anybody still speaks Yiddish, to hit your head against the wall. They're not too many times, but actually you can learn a lot from that. So thank you so much, Shachar and Momik. Thank you for giving us a little bit of a taste of these schools. Thank you also, Yedida, a shout out to you. You've been on every call and you've asked questions in the chat. I really appreciate that. I know people on our board and others have asked for the recording, so we're sending those out as well. This is just the beginning to get a little bit more information about what's going on the ground, both in terms of our schools and in terms of our innovative pedagogues and educators. So thank you to all. Larry, Toda Lecha for setting this up, always, to Betsy and Jess and everyone else. And we'll be doing these again. So to all of you, to all of us, be safe, and we'll let you know when we'll do these again. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Thanks.
everybody.
Bye-bye.